Welcome back, everyone. In our last video, we covered the worst 10 states in 2024, and now it's time for the best of the best. How do we decide which state takes the crown? We dove deep into the data, analyzing the 30 most search stats people consider when moving, like crime rates, healthcare, housing costs, schools, and more. Imagine a state that ranks 5th for safety, 4th for economy, 3rd for traffic, and 8th for healthcare. It gets points for all those high ranks. In this video, we'll highlight why each state made the top 10 list by sharing some of their standout features. Is it perfect science? Maybe not. Is it fascinating? Absolutely. Ready to find out where your state ranks? Let's dive in. Number 10, Nebraska. Nebraska is famous for huge open spaces, amazing views, and kind people. It isn't a southern state, but it has that southern hospitality thing down perfectly. I've always enjoyed reading stories about how the states got their start. Back in the early 2000s, I saw this documentary at a small film festival. This guy had gathered all kinds of letters and journals from families that had made the push west back in the early 1800s. A lot of those families got to places like Nebraska, Kansas, and Iowa and found out it was perfect for farming, so they just stopped there. These were people that were on a 6 to 8 month trip heading to Oregon. These people were like 2 weeks into their trip and went, good enough. Nebraska isn't just farming, though. A lot of people just think it's open wheat fields and that's it. They don't have the biggest cities, but they have amazing small towns and plenty of things to do for nature lovers. Sure, you're not going to be hiking the Rockies here, but there's plenty of things to do. There's a creek, river, pond, lake in close proximity to wherever you are in Nebraska. I was in the Army with a guy from Arcadia, Nebraska. I always remember that because there's an Arcadia, California, near where I grew up. This guy used to just tell us great stories about hanging out on a river by his house. He always made it sound just so wonderful. But there's a lot of other positives about living in Nebraska. One of the biggest ones is they have a very low violent crime rate. The cost of living is 9% less than the US average, which makes it a perfect place for someone looking to save a buck. It's also home to like 7 or 8 Fortune 500 companies, and they always have a pretty low unemployment rate. It's usually a couple of points lower than the national average. Like always, alright, here's where they rank and how they got on the list. They have the 7th lowest domestic violence rate, the 7th lowest poverty rate, 8th lowest cost of living, and the 9th lowest violent crime rate in the nation. Nebraska showed up on 13 of the top 10 best lists. Number 9, South Dakota. South Dakota is a great place for people who want to save money. It's cheaper to live there because the cost of housing and the sales tax are lower than what most people in the country pay. In case you struggle with math like myself, that means you have more money for Jell-O pudding cups. The state also has some really good colleges, and that's how a lot of people end up living in South Dakota that aren't originally from there. You have the University of South Dakota, South Dakota State University, Dakota Wesleyan University, and a whole bunch of small community colleges. Another big plus is it's safer here than it is in a lot of other places in the United States. One of the biggest draws to South Dakota, though, has got to be the outdoors. South Dakota has amazing views and lots of activities. Hiking, camping, all that good stuff. There's so much more to South Dakota than Mount Rushmore, and I don't think a lot of people understand that. Anyone that's not from around South Dakota or never visited, all they think is Mount Rushmore, Sturgis, and Deadwood. This is the 3rd year in a row that I've noticed that South Dakota has made it into the top 10 best states in the US. I was looking back at some of my older videos and some of the research that I had done, and they usually ended up around 14 or 15, let's say, before 2019. But they're doing really good these days. South Dakota shows up as the lowest when it comes to domestic violence. There's hardly any compared to other states, I should say. They have the 7th lowest property tax and the 4th lowest housing costs in the nation. South Dakota showed up in 13 of our 30 top 10 lists. Number 8, Massachusetts. Massachusetts is not surprising to many people. If you want to live in Massachusetts, normally you've done some research and you know the state's got a lot of good things going for it. This state ranks really well in education and healthcare according to different reports. It's home to some very famous schools like Harvard, MIT, and Boston College, which are part of an excellent education system. Plus, almost everyone in Massachusetts has health insurance, with about 96.3% of the population being covered. It's also a safe place to live because they have a lower crime rate than many other states. They do have some crime in some of the bigger cities. Obviously, cities have crime, that's just what happens. But compared to most states, they're not doing bad. In terms of jobs, it's a great place to look for a job. I mean, it's expensive, so you got to have a job. But in January of 2024, unemployment decreased by 0.5% from the previous year, and they added 18,300 new jobs in January of this year alone. One other great thing about Massachusetts is they have some of the strongest laws that protect workers. Here are some of the better lists they were on. They're second with the lowest gun violence, first when it comes to graduation rate with 96.1% of their high school students getting out with a diploma, and they are second when it comes to income per capita. Massachusetts showed up on 14 of the top 10 best lists. Number 7, Virginia. Virginia is one of those states we rarely talk about on this channel. They always seem to be middle of the road. I guess in recent years, it's like the states made some moves to kind of move up the best state food chain. But Virginia's a pretty cool state, and it draws a bunch of different types of people. They have a lot of great cities, a lot of amazing suburbs, and some really nice rural towns. You can go hiking along the Blue Ridge Mountains, or just hang out at the beach along the Atlantic Ocean. On top of all that good stuff, Virginia was one of the original 13 colonies set up by the British in America. I almost said the United States, but it wasn't the United States then, it was just America. Anyway, Virginia is packed with history. Places like Colonial Williamsburg and Jamestown are super interesting spots to go visit. Virginia's got a great economy, especially up in the Northern Virginia area. It's turning into a pretty good tech center, and of course, everyone that lives up that way works for the government just about. Virginia's really interesting because it shows up normally around number 5, 6, or 7 in a lot of different lists. Here's some of the better ones they do have. They're the 5th lowest when it comes to domestic violence, they have the 4th best air quality, and they are ranked 3rd when it comes to reoffenders or recidivism or whatever that word is, people that go back to jail after they got out. Only 23.3% of convicts go back to jail in Virginia. Now, I should mention that's people that committed secondary crimes, like a crime after they got out. A good amount of people do go back because, let's say, they didn't meet the requirements of their parole, but that's every state. But as far as people going out, robbing a bank and then robbing a bank again rarely happens in Virginia. Virginia showed up on 16 of the top 10 lists. Number 6, Washington State. What is going on with Washington over the last few years? They've been number like 1, 2, or 3 on lists like this. How did they get to number 6? Washington is known as the Evergreen State. It's a pretty cool place to hang out. I love Washington. Mountains, forests, the Pacific Coast, epic national parks like Mount Rainier. Even though homeless have taken over Seattle, the rest of the state is pretty good. The state's economy is doing great with companies like Amazon and Microsoft being based there. Another cool thing, Washington doesn't have a state income tax. That's my personal favorite, honestly. I love that. My sister lives over in Washington. They just love the fact there's no state income tax. And if they need anything, they just come across the border into Oregon and they buy it there where there's no state sales tax. If anyone's ever thinking about moving to the Pacific Northwest and you want to save some money, my suggestion is to move to one of the nicer neighborhoods in Vancouver, Washington. No state income tax, and then right across the river you have no sales tax. It's the best of both worlds. So a lot of people just work in Portland and they'll live in Vancouver, and the real estate tends to be a little bit cheaper over in the Vancouver area. When you look at the lists that Washington shows up on, they have the 6th best air quality, 5th per capita when it comes to income, and they are the 5th least obese state. They have a whole bunch of things that are middle of the road, but they showed up on 17 of our top 10 lists. Number 5, Colorado. Colorado is another state that people tend to love if they like the outdoors. Colorado has the Rocky Mountains, which means you get skiing, snowboarding, hiking, and just some amazing views. Colorado is home to some great cities like Denver, Boulder, and Colorado Springs, all of which have a lot of amenities and activities. Denver is a major hub for business, and Boulder is known for its high quality of life and outdoor activities. Colorado also has a very healthy population, with some of the lowest obesity rates in the country. It's a great place for people who are into fitness and outdoor sports. The state has a very low unemployment rate and a booming economy. thanks in part to the tech industry and a lot of new businesses moving into the area. The state's population has been growing rapidly as a result. Some of the lists Colorado ranks high on include second for least obesity, fifth for income per capita, and fourth for education. Colorado showed up on 18 of our top 10 lists. Number 4, Minnesota. Minnesota might surprise some people, but this state has a lot going for it. Known as the land of 10,000 lakes, Minnesota is a paradise for anyone who loves water activities. The state has a strong economy with companies like Target, Best Buy, and 3M headquartered there. It also has a very low unemployment rate and a high median income. Minnesota is known for its excellent healthcare system and has some of the best hospitals in the country. The state also has a high quality of life with good schools and low crime rates. Minneapolis and St. Paul, the Twin Cities, are known for their cultural amenities, including theaters, museums, and music venues. Minnesota ranks fourth for healthcare, third for education, and fifth for overall quality of life. Minnesota showed up on 19 of our top 10 lists. Number 3, Utah. Utah is a state that's been rising in the ranks over the past few years. It's known for its stunning natural beauty, with national parks like Zion, Bryce Canyon, and Arches. Utah has a strong economy with a lot of job opportunities, particularly in the tech sector. The state has a low unemployment rate and a high median income. Utah is also known for having a very healthy population, with low obesity rates and high rates of physical activity. The state has a high quality of life and is considered a great place to raise a family. Some of the lists Utah ranks high on include first for the lowest drug use, second for physical activity, and third for overall economic health. Utah showed up on 20 of our top 10 lists. Number 2, New Hampshire. New Hampshire is a small state with a lot of great qualities. It has no state income tax and no sales tax, which is a big draw for a lot of people. The state has a very low crime rate and a high quality of life. New Hampshire is known for its excellent schools and healthcare system. The state also has a strong economy with a low unemployment rate. It's a great place for people who love the outdoors, with plenty of opportunities for hiking, skiing, and other activities. New Hampshire ranks first for the lowest poverty rate, second for safety, and third for overall quality of life. New Hampshire showed up on 21 of our top 10 lists. Number 1, Vermont. Vermont takes the top spot this year as the best state to live in. Vermont is known for its beautiful landscapes, including mountains, forests, and lakes. The state has a very low crime rate and a high quality of life. Vermont is known for its excellent schools and healthcare system. The state also has a strong sense of community and a high level of civic engagement. Vermont has a very low unemployment rate and a strong economy, particularly in the sectors of education, healthcare, and tourism. The state ranks first for the lowest violent crime rate, second for healthcare, and third for overall quality of life. Vermont showed up on 22 of our top 10 lists. And there you have it, folks. The top 10 best states to live in 2024. Whether you're looking for safety, economic opportunity, or a high quality of life, these states have it all. Did your state make the list? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more great content. See you next time.